Hi students, and welcome to another video of Let's Get Mental. This time we're going to work on a continuation of our previous lesson on integers, and here we're going to cover calculating with integers. So our lesson objectives is addition of integers, subtraction of integers, multiplication of integers, division of integers, and how to work in an order of operations. Right, in an addition of integers, we have an example. So we've got a -3, we add 4, and we get an answer of 1. So this is how it works. You have a number line, you're going to plot your number on the number line. So we're starting at a negative, which is -3, and we're adding 4, which means we are jumping right. So just like we do with whole numbers, we jump right when we add. We're doing the same here. So from -3, we add 4, and we arrive at 1. And that's how you get your answer. So example 2, we've got a -4 and we're adding 6. We end up at +2. So similar to the previous example, you start at -4 on your number line, you jump 6 to the right, and you land off in number 2. So this is a little different. We've got a -10 and we're adding 6, and we end up at a -4 number. Now this happens because our negative is a larger number than our addition. So if you see we're starting at a -10 number, if we add or jump to the right 6 times, we are adding up 6. We are still within our negative range. We are not passing the negatives and moving into positives. So then we land up at -4. Take a few moments, look at the number line, and then you will see how we arrive at the answer. So now it's time for you to try a few of your own. So think of a number line, work like how you do with whole numbers, and see how you arrive at your answers. So give a few minutes and come back to see the answers. Okay, now for the answers. We've got a -4, we're adding 0. If we're starting on a number line with -4, and if we're adding 0, we're not really moving anywhere. So -4 would be your answer. If you look at the second one on the middle, we've got a -1 and we're adding 5 more. So if we're jumping from a -1 and we're moving 5 to the right, we're going to jump going to 4. As you can see, your answer is 4. Let's look at the third one. We're at -9 on the number line. We're adding 9 more, which means we're moving right 9 times. If we do that, we will end up at 0. The next one, -12, we add 8. So if you are -12 in your number line and you're adding 8 going right, you're going to land up at -4. -19, we're going to add 7. And if you had to do that, you would move right 7 times, and that would land you on -12. The next example, a -21 plus 3. So you're moving right again, and if you look at your number line, you're starting at -21, you add 3 going right, and you will land off in -18. The next example, we've got -32 plus 9. So you're starting at a -32, and you're adding 9 going to the right. You will end up in -23. The next example, -23 plus 10, you will end up at -13. Starting to make a bit more sense to you. You're beginning to understand how this works. So let's look at the next one. A -39, you add 1, you end up at -38. -52 plus 11, you end up at -41. -62 plus 12 is a -50. And the last one, -99 plus 9 would give you a -90. Got it? Let's move on. So now we're doing subtraction of integers. So say you are at 2 and you need to minus 6. So you are on number 2 as a positive number on your number line. And this time, because we're subtracting, we're moving left. So we're moving back. So at 2, when you move backwards 6 spaces, you will end up at -4. And that's how we got the answer. In your next example, you add negative 4, you're minusing another 4, which means you're moving to the left. And if you start at negative 4 and move back 4 more spaces, you will end up at negative 8. One more example. So you're starting at negative 10, you're minusing 5, so which means you're moving left 5 more jumps, and you end up at negative 15. Let's try some examples. So take a moment, try these few, and come back and look at the answers. So now for the answers. The first one, you add negative 4 and you're minusing 2, you're going to land at negative 6. The second one, negative 1, you minus 5 more, you'll end up at negative 6. You add negative 9, minus 9, you will end up at negative 18. So look at the next one, negative 12, and you minus 8 more, you will end up at negative 20. The next one, you add negative 19, and you minus 7, you will end up at negative 26. Negative 21 minus another 3 would give you negative 24. Negative 32 minus 9 would give you negative 41. Negative 23 minus another 10 would land you at negative 33. Negative 29 minus 3 more will land you at negative 32. Negative 52 minus another 11, you will land at negative 63. Negative 62 minus another 12 will land you on negative 74. And finally, your negative 99 minus another 9 will land you on negative 108. I hope it's making more sense to you. So let's move on to multiplying integers. Okay, so multiplying integers requires you to learn a set of rules. So these are the rules that I've set out, and you're just going to have a look at it for a little while before you move on to the next part. So multiplying of integers requires us to follow a set of rules. The rules are displayed below. So number 1 shows you a negative times a positive would equal to a negative. So in an example, this looks like a negative 2 times a positive 3 will give us a negative 6. Let's look at number 2. You've got a positive number times a negative number, and you land off at a negative answer. So in the example, you've got a positive 2, you multiply it with a negative 3, and you end up with a negative 6 answer. Let's look at number 3. So we have a negative value multiplied by another negative value would then give you a positive answer. So let's look at the example. A negative 2 times a negative 3 would equal to a positive 6. Let's look at number 4. A positive number times another positive number will equal to a positive number. So that's what we currently work with now. If you look at the example, 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So just keep these rules in mind when you're working with multiplying. Okay, let's just clarify the rules again one more time before we move into examples. So when we see a negative and a positive, we're going to get a negative answer. When we see a positive and a negative being multiplied, we're going to get a negative answer. When we see 2 negatives that are being multiplied, we get a positive answer. And when we see 2 positives, we get a positive answer. So recap that a bit before we move on to the next part. So I have a few examples showing the same type of rules that we have already gone through. So let's apply the rules to resolve these sums. So negative 9 times a positive 3. So we see a negative times a positive would give us a negative. So we put the negative first, and then 9 times 3 gives us 27. Let's look at the second one below number 1. We've got a negative 12 times a positive 2. So you see there's a negative number times a positive number. This will give us a negative answer. So we can put our negative first and then say 12 times 2 is equal to 24. Let's look at number 2. So the first example on number 2 says 9 times a negative 3 is equal to a negative 27. Can you see there was a positive times a negative? results in a negative answer. Let's look at 12 times negative 2. There's a positive times a negative resulting in a negative answer. So we put our negative down. 12 times 2 gives us 24. Let's look at number 3 now. We've got a negative 11 times a negative 4 is equal to a positive 44. Remember the rule? Negative times a negative gives us a positive answer. Let's look at the second one. We've got a negative 8 times a negative 3, which means we're going to have a positive answer. So 8 times 3 gives us 24. Let's look at number 4. We've got 11 times 4 is equal to 44, and 8 times 3 is equal to 24. See, 4 is very easy because that's what we work with currently. The main thing you need to know is your rules for negatives and positives, and that 2 negatives make a positive. Let's move on. Okay, so now that we've learned the rules, it's time to put it to the test. So pause the video, take a few minutes, work on these examples, and come see the answers. So here are your answers. Number 1, negative 2 times a negative 11 gives us a positive 22. Number 2, 4 times 9 gives us 36. Number 3, a negative 7 times a positive 9 is equal to a negative 63. Number 4, a positive 10 times a negative 13 is equal to a negative 130. Number 5, 5 times a negative 12 gives us a negative 60. Number 6, a negative 15 times a positive 2 gives us a negative 30. So let's move on to dividing. Dividing of integers is very similar to the set of rules that we had for multiplication. So if you look at the first one, you've got a negative divided by a positive gives you a negative. Right? Very similar to the multiplication we had. Then look at number 2. Your positive divided by a negative gives you a negative. So same principle as the multiplication. Now look at number 3. We've got a negative divided by a negative gives us a positive. So similar to the multiplication rule. And finally, 2 positives divided together gives us a positive. So the rules are exactly the same for multiplication and division. So if you want to move on, we can just look at the examples. If not, you could take a few minutes to go through these examples again and then refresh your understanding of it before you move on to the examples. Right, so dividing with integers, let's apply those rules that we've learned with these sums. So number 1, we've got a negative 9 divided by a positive 3 gives us a negative 3. A negative 12 divided by a positive 2 gives us a negative 6. In number 2, we've got a positive 27 divided by a negative 3 gives us a negative 9. Positive 12 divided by a negative 12 is equal to a negative 1. Okay, so now that we are on number 3, negative 11 divided by negative 1 gives us 11. A negative 18 divided by a negative 3 would give us a positive 6. And then number 4, positive 32 divided by positive 4 will give us a positive 8. 54 divided by 6 will give us a positive 9. Now you're going to try. So use the same rules for division and work out these sums. Pause it for a moment and come back to see the answers. So here are your answers. For number 1, negative 15 divided by a 1 is equal to a negative 15. Number 2, 42 divided by 7 gives us 6. Number 3, a negative 20 divided by a negative 5 will give us 4. Number 4, a negative 54 divided by 6 will give us a negative 9. A negative 100 divided by a positive 10 will give us a negative 10. And finally, number 6, a negative 11 divided by another negative 11 will give us a positive 1. Finally, we work on the order of operations. So when we're solving integers, we work with an acronym called BODMAS. So it works for all mathematical sums that have more than one operations in their number sentence. So BODMAS is basically broken down into brackets, overs, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. It's basically the order of operations that you follow when you have a multiple operation sum. Okay, let's look at the example. They've got 27 divided by open bracket negative 3 plus 6, close brackets minus 1. The first thing you would do is work on your brackets. So if we work on brackets, negative 3 plus 6 gives us a positive 3. So if you look at the second row, it's got 27, which remains the same, divided by positive 3 minus 1. So next we have to work on the division first before the subtraction. So we divide 27 divided by 3 and we get 9. And finally we put on the minus 1. Finally we do the subtraction. 9 minus 1 gives us 8. Easy. So let's move on. Let's try using BODMAS to solve these problems. So I'm going to give you a few moments to work this out, and then you can come back and see the answers. So here are your answers. In the first one, you're working with brackets first. So a negative 25 plus 5 gives us a negative 20. Then we divide the negative 4 plus 10 in that row. If you look at the next row, we're taking the negative 20 and dividing it by 4 because that's next on your BODMAS. If we divide the 2, we get a positive 5 and then we add 10 to it. And that's how we arrived at 15 as your final answer. Let's look at number 2. We're working with the brackets first. We've got negative 32 divided by 8. And if we divide them out, we're going to get a negative 4. Then we're going to multiply with negative 6 minus 20 in that step. Next, we have to do multiplication. Since we don't have any more division sums, multiplication is next on your order of operations. So negative 4 times the negative 6 gives us positive 24. Then we minus the 20, which is our final step, and we get 4. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.